Everyone, this is a very interesting day. This is the final day of Merdeka Youth Forum, and we have four amazing guests that we invited for today. So today we have the first set of two. We have Hamzah, Hamizan from TEGAS, Tabung Gagasan Anak Sarawak. Am I correct? And we have Madiha Fuad from PlusVibes. So very interesting. Kedua-dua kita punya guest is very interesting. Sebab Hamzah saya dah kenal lama dah. He is from Curtin University, founded a society called Founders Clubs, which evolved into an incubator. And Madiha, I haven't met him in person yet, but the first time, I've heard about him. I've heard about her is via her app. I downloaded PlusVibes first. And then I discovered about you, and I realized that boleh add kat LinkedIn je. So both of you guys are very interesting, and I believe that you guys have many stories to share. So before we actually start with the question, kita pergi ke sesi pengenalan dulu lah. So let's have Madiha. Madiha, can you please introduce yourself and please tell us the most memorable Merdeka memory that you've ever had?
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Thank you for having me. So my name is Madiha, or you can call me Maddie. I'm the founder of PlusVibes. So PlusVibes is an all-in-one mental health platform. So I had a mobile application, I had a workshop, I had a self-care product line, and dengan ada foundation. So we also participated in the Bendera Putih campaign. So my most memorable Merdeka is actually, I grew up overseas. So my father was a diplomat. And every 3 years, we would have to move around. So different countries. So we were in Paris, we were in Tokyo, we were in London, and we were in Saudi Arabia. And I think for me, Merdeka was a very important event because the embassy would really celebrate it. We would have a lot of students studying in different parts of that country come over to the embassy, and it would be a really big event. So for me, Merdeka was always something so much happening. So growing up, that was my Merdeka.
Thank you, Maddie. So can we hear about Hamzah? So Hamzah, can you please introduce yourself and your most memorable Merdeka memory?
All right. So hi everyone. My name is Hamzah, and I was a co-founder of Founders Club. So basically, it was a club that was based in our university, Curtin University, focused on empowering youths and like the communities around us for entrepreneurship and innovation. And fast forward after 3 years, COVID really took a huge, in a way, like affected what we did, and I jumped boat, not to save me je lah, but in a way like to also explore on other things that is out there. So I joined TEGAS. Basically, it's an organization that focuses on empowering the entrepreneurship innovation communities here in Sarawak. So like we've been going around, like doing programs for the people within the state as well as Sarawakians abroad to basically empower them in entrepreneurship as well. So a little bit about my memory. The only thing I can remember was when I was a kid, growing up dekat Sarawak ni, we used to celebrate it on a very, like I would say it's quite meriah, because basically the whole village would have this competition where rumah siapa paling banyak bendera akan menang, all those things. So you can see like people actually painting their houses with the Malaysian flag as well as the other flags of the other states, and you see like flags on cars, because there's like categories of like competition that they can compete in. So that was kind of unique, and you will see like kids like myself, like I would wear songkok dengan bendera Malaysia, like you see people wearing baju Melayu made out of bendera, and it was quite unique lah in a sense back then. And we were kids, and then after that I moved to West Malaysia. That's when I also celebrated in different level, because over there people celebrate it at the stadium, and you had like memang military parade. It was quite amazing lah to see. And like growing up as a kampung boy, and then growing up again in the city, the dynamic is different, but you can see people are celebrating, and people are really like in a way excited lah for what has happened in the past, and also remembering what ni lah the history lah senang cerita. Yeah.
That is very interesting, Hamzah, because I mean, you have quite a number point of views kan, macam multiple celebrations kan, ada Hari Sarawak, ada 16 September, ada Hari Merdeka kan. So I mean after this, we also like to know lah, like what are the difference between those celebration and how macam mana yang paling meriah antara tiga-tiga tu. So we also want to know that. But moving on, nak tanya kepada Maddie, you've gone through, I believe like banyak negara dah. As you said, Tokyo, Paris. I believe like more than 3 to 4 countries, and you stayed there. You actually stayed there for more than 1 year. On an optimal level, 3 tahun lah. As you said, setiap 3 tahun kau pindah. But you still decided to start a company in Malaysia. What drives you? And why do you want to solve Malaysian punya problem? Why don't you just go on start dekat US ke, start dekat any parts of the world yang currency dia lagi better than Malaysia? Can you please share to us on that?
I think that's a good question, because we see a lot of youngsters yang macam brought up overseas and they want to stay there, right? So it results in a brain drain for Malaysia. So a lot of people, youngsters, will move and migrate to Australia. That's a very big example. We can see US. But for me, it's not really about it's about coming back to Malaysia. I went to UiTM to learn Malay. I really wanted to get to know my roots, to start something here. I think it means more. It's a sense of belonging for me. It's like, even if you do business or you stay overseas, you're not really, a part of the nationality there. So it's about coming back to Malaysia, starting something here, building Malaysia as a nation. And I feel that I really have a lot to contribute, and that's why I wanted to start my company here.
And Hamzah, you're in Sarawak, and specifically in Miri. So we've heard a lot of awesome people came from Miri, macam Noh Hujan, ZRV semua tu kan. A lot of talented people dekat Malaysia ni sebenarnya asal-usul banyak datang from Sarawak. How challenging it is to be a person yang champion, kata kita kena stay kat Sarawak. We need to make a name kat Sarawak. If you want to be an entrepreneur, walaupun you want to serve other global markets, you kena stay kat Sarawak. How challenging it is? Can you share to us?
Well, I don't know, like honestly from my perspective kan, because I was just a university student and coming back because number one, I wanted to contribute back to the place that I grew up in, as well as to also see my grandparents kan. So initially, of course it's quite challenging because I grew up in West Malaysia. Coming back, I have to restart all over again, get new friends, get to know the community. But I think it would be similar anywhere you go lah. Like if I were for example, if kalau orang ni orang Kedah and coming back, it would be quite difficult for them. But I would say that depends on the niche that you're exploring. Like myself, like I was more involved in, I was wanting to, I wish, I could create my own Silicon Valley in my backyard. I want to do like a group of people developing, because dekat Sarawak ni, most of the kids want to grow up and enter into oil and gas. Like even myself, like growing up, people would just talk about oil and gas. We would talk about, the oil barrel price, and it's constantly that. As opposed to kalau you go Kuching, it will be more variety. But here in Miri, everyone talks about oil and gas. So I think the hardest part was to actually getting out from that particular conversation and trying to bring in something new, because people here are just so used to the norm of, like relying on certain things kan. And this basically, in a way, like I was lucky. And I would say that because of the unlucky situation lah, because people are like jumping out or getting retrenched from oil and gas, so people are looking to explore. So I would say I was lucky because I managed to be in that particular niche when people needed it the most, and I managed to, like in a way leverage lah from the friends that I made and the relationship that I've made from like joining programs. So yeah, going back to your question, I would say that it has its own sets of challenges, but it depends on how you manage it and how you bring yourself together and of course like having a great support system and friends and family, all those things.
And we do understand that, I mean, doing things in entrepreneurship, especially in Malaysia, especially if you're involved in the startup or technology side, it's quite hard because the policy itself. I mean, right now during the pandemic, you see it, the digitalization strategy they accelerate scale. But you know, prior to the pandemic, people would opt for traditional means daripada using digital means kan. So I really want to understand on Maddie's side. You are doing quite macam an interesting startup plus vibe. You are trying to help people who face macam mental health issues and whatnot. I want to understand kenapa you masuk that side of business, because I do believe that it's quite hard to really monetize, or it's quite challenging. The barrier of entry is quite high, and I think the biggest challenge that you have is to educate the market on how to use your platform. So can you share to us a bit on your journey of building PlusVibe?
Yeah, so I think mental health itself is a new industry and there's a lot of stigma around it. So it's not easy, but it's something that is very important for the future generation, for the youth who are struggling and increasingly having difficulty in getting accessibility and these kind of things, right? So I think for me, the journey was, we all go through our own ups and downs, right? So my last semester of my PhD was I think, the lowest point of my life. I mean, it's not easy. It was hard. I was getting pressure from all fronts. And then I had a business to run. So it was overwhelming. But then again, I realized that I'm not the only one facing that kind of situation. We all do at different levels. Some things we can handle, some things we can't. But everybody struggles. But there isn't actually one point where, or one platform that you can go to get for help. I mean, there are hotlines and talian kasih and all these kind of things. But to what extent would you actually use that every day to look for motivation, to look for support, to pick yourself back up? You won't really rely on those kind of things. But what do people really rely on? Mobile apps. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has mobile apps. So in order for you to look for help, macam nak cari macam pertolongan ke, you nak sembang dengan orang late at night ke, you would want someone who's anonymous where you can share all your problems to. That's what I needed. So I fikir, actually, the problems that we are facing, to some extent, other people do face it as well. So if you're really passionate about that certain issue that you want to solve, there are people in the market who need that too. So wanting to develop something that solves my own problem, and I know that it does impact and contribute to the society as well. And that's what makes me feel better. So far, PlusVibes has 10,000 users on the mobile app. We just launched it in October last year. So about 6-7 months, something like this. And you imagine the number of positive feedbacks that we have. It's thousands. People are like, oh, thank you. I didn't know yang macam sembang dengan orang yang I tak kenal pun would really make me feel better. Because mental health is something that affects everything. Productivity, emotions, our relationships with other people. It affects everything. But people don't place enough importance. Sebab apa? Sebab stigma. So orang tak nak kata macam, oh, I ada mental health issue ke, I ada anxiety, depression ke, takut tak boleh. Orang macam, dia ni boleh ke perform dalam group assignment dekat university, atau dia ni boleh ke kerja ni? You know, there's that stigma that people are afraid of. So the thing that will help people and help me was that I needed something anonymous. I needed, kalau I feel down ke, I need something that will boost my motivation, right? People go to Instagram, but Instagram, you are comparing your life to other people. Right? So you can tengok, alamak, dia ni dapat kerja sini. Oh, pandemic pun dia boleh buat business macam ni, you see? So you start comparing and it doesn't make you feel good. So what makes you feel good? Talking to someone where you can share completely anonymously. And then kita ada workshop which is also not intrusive, so we don't pinpoint people's problem. It's more about talking about general things, how to handle depression, how to handle anxiety, how to manage emotions, how to boost your productivity, you know, general things. And people are like, oh, actually, I boleh buat ni. So, you know, it's like educating people, creating awareness, and that's the most important thing. And that's what makes me feel good. And the team that I have are also very passionate about mental health. And that's why it works so well in building like PlusVibes. And that's how we've come so far.
It's interesting that you say that you know, you want to increase accessibility, and the reason why the problem arises because of the stigma. If I can relate to Hamzah, because Hamzah is also quite in a, you know, challenging situation, because number one, some parts of Sarawak is not. I mean, you can't you, number one is you can't access, and number two, because of the infrastructure, they can't access technology. And number two, of the stigma itself, as you said, over there oil and gas, so more lucrative as opposed to starting up apa, a technology company, let alone trying to imagine ataupun to dream of Sarawak being a Silicon Valley kan. So Hamzah, I just want to understand, like, I mean, how do you deal with that, the challenges, the stigmas, and how, what are you guys doing to improve the accessibility for especially in the rural areas for your entrepreneurship new programs?
Well, so I'll break it into two. So basically, one would be when I was in during my university years, and the second would be when I'm currently working with the state lah. So I'm sorry if there's background noises. I hope there's no background noises coming in. But basically, waktu zaman uni, I mean, of course, like being university kids, right? No one's really gonna you know, like trust kau or like really want to listen to what you have to say because you're young and all those things. But I think the thing about the older generation is that diorang ni, they work by proof, and so they work by evidence. So in a sense that if you can do something, if you can achieve something, you show them, then they would actually listen to you. So that's what we did. So you know, like we go around, we pitched a lot, and we wanted to build this. We helped them to build that thing, and you know, like build websites for this, because they understand the need of having all this technology. But it's just that they don't believe in how effective it is. So as long as we can like in a way show to them like, hey, you know, it actually could help you, then yes, you know, they would actually believe in you, and they would become like the true believer lah. But the thing is, getting them to take the first step tu yang paling payah lah. And most of the time they don't want to spend. So that was our mistake, because when we started off, like we were just a bunch of kids, a bunch of students who would just like to, you know, like, okay, kita nak tinker, want to go back and do something and create an app or whatever not. So we never really put in value, and that became a huge strain lah, for myself, for my team. And you know, I wish I knew about PlusVibes, and I believe PlusVibes was created last year, right? So managing that was crazy lah, because there were expectations, as what Madiha mentioned, and it's not just from family members, because they expect you to graduate on time. Second was from the people that you work with, kan? They expect that you know, you dah lah buat free, and then they expect like, okay, I want this to be effective, and so how do you prove that it can be effective? So then the other thing was from university itself, because they were like, what are you guys doing? You know, like you should be scoring. Why is your marks like this? Why is your weight average for this semester like this? And I went to consultation many times. And the thing about the system is that, you know, like they don't really care about what's going on about you. They just care about your marks. So they will just consult you because, you know, why did you not perform this semester? It's only that. So if let's say you would say like, okay, I'm having family issue, I'm having this, I'm having that. How to solve it? It just depends on you lah. Yeah, they don't really care about, you know, what's happening. They just like, okay, we'll put you under observation. So next semester you have to go back up, you know. So it was quite very, very challenging lah, for me zaman university. And I think I've shared this a lot with Hanif also, you know, like doing your own business when you're studying, which I also resonate with Madiha. You know, like what should you put first? You know, your student hat or your entrepreneurship hat, or in my sense also the community building hat, because I have to, you know, like go out and help the community. And sometimes, you know, like I think Hanif mentioned to me, you know, who's gonna help you if you're not gonna help yourself, right? So that really, really put a huge punch to my gut, because I was like, damn, that's true, you know, like sekarang aku tengah down ni, siapa yang nak tolong aku kan? So it's just us, you know, and we are the ones that should go out and find the help, kan? But sometimes we don't know, and or we don't trust anyone. So that's the other issue. And I really like that Madiha did mention about the fact that you can anonymously, you know, reach out to people, and they don't know about you, you don't know about them. So that creates a very safe space that, you know, like no one's gonna share about you, or if they're gonna share pun, no point, because no one's gonna know. And So I wish those kind of things existed. And I would say that in terms of like support system pun, sometimes they support you on certain things, or they don't support you on certain things juga kan. But moving forward, like when I graduated and I started working with TEGAS, it really helps me to solve certain issues. For example, you mentioned about accessibility, right? So being in the state, being in the government allows us to really like reach out, and in a way, like apa-apa roadblock that had happened to me when I was still studying, of course like education dah tak ada lah, dah tak belajar lagi kan, but the roadblocks of which accessibility apa semua ni, we can solve it because of the fact that we do have macam satellites, partners within the ecosystem, dekat dalam Long Baram ada, dekat dekat Samarahan ada, dekat Sariki ada, so it's everywhere. So reaching out wasn't really an issue. It's just of the stigma. So that's the other issue that we had to go through, because macam dekat Miri, people are just like looking into entering into oil and gas, but in Bintulu orang nak masuk gas. Dekat Kuching, they either want to work into in the government or in other field, like in corporates. And dekat Cebu, it's different. Maybe people want to work in F&B. So I think breaking up the stigma is still, it's not gonna be, there's no solution to that. It's just that we just have to educate lah. I think taking the first step really matters. But I don't think there will be any ways for us to solve any stigma, especially if it's part of our culture. It's just more of having them to understand it lah. We cannot really change macam the older generation. We just have to live by it. Macam COVID lah kan. Like currently, like I think having herd immunity is gonna be tough. We're gonna be living with it. It's just a matter of how you're gonna live with it. Same with stigma lah. So I think that's my answer to stigma and your question to accessibility juga.
That is very interesting, because I would like to relate what your point for my next question to Madiha. Educating new user or educating people who don't know the spirit ke tak tahu kan, it's very challenging. How do you do it? Because I believe that especially for PlusVibes, you're very new in the market. When you enter, you have your own competitor. I believe you have Naluri, which is well funded, run by Azran Rani, who is quite legendary in Malaysia. But you entered the market right now. I believe you have great traction. So how do you actually educate your consumer?
I think the first thing is about identifying a unique selling point. So actually, we're very different. Same industry, mental health, well-being, but very different services. Naluri focuses more on health professionals, coaches, which is a very different market to us. For us, it's more on identifying that support system, creating that awareness before you reach the stage of critical, severe mental illness. So it's like you already know you're stressed. You already know you have minor anxiety or something's going on in your life. But if you don't treat it, if you don't talk to someone, if you don't look for something or awareness or educate yourself, it will become something that's even more worse, right? So it's about tackling that kind of situation before it gets into a severe and critical stage. For us, we actually didn't, of course, don't have a lot of deep pockets, so we don't go all out in terms of marketing, but for us, it's more word of mouth, which I believe is so important and really meaningful for us. For example, people who download the app, we're like, how do you discover about PlusVibes? 80% is from friends and family. So that means a lot to us, because that shows that people like the app. People feel that it's comfortable for them to use. They find motivation, they find inspiration, so they want to share it with their loved ones, people who are silently struggling. So I think for us, that means the most. In terms of competitors, I believe that the more the better, because we can never cater to the whole of Malaysia or the whole world. We're just a small team. We hope to grow, but in the end, there are still a lot of people suffering. So if there are more outlets or places where people can reach out to, the better. It helps the community, because in the end, our united goal and our mission is to improve productivity, is to make sure that people are cared for, their well-being, their happiness, and that's the most important thing. So it's all about creating a united mission, vision, to make the world a better place, to make people feel like they have that support system, and that's the most important thing.
I can actually really feel your passion in doing. And again, as Hamzah said, thank you for doing what you do, because you are, I believe that you've helped a lot of people. And also for Hamzah, because relating to what Madiha said, tak ada masalah ada competitor. Lagi banyak, lagi bagus, sebab it's an entity to solve problem kan, and your goal is for impact, to increase productivity. So kalau banyak competitor, it means that the market is ready for such solution. So on your side, Hamzah, you're a community builder. Tak ramai anak-anak muda kita nak jadi seorang community builder, because you don't get paid for it. Dapat penat je. Kadang-kadang you execute, you build a very great initiative, tapi you don't get credits for it. But still, like, can you please tell us your journey on community building? How did you get inspired of trying to be a community builder, and macam mana our youngsters out there can be like you, be a community builder?
Honestly, I think how I entered community building was just because I wanted to improve my English. So that was my original goal. So I joined debate, and afterwards I realized how, I basically went to UiTM. That was my diploma years, and I went to Curtin, and then I realized about how different it is, the culture, because in the private education, clubs are a little bit more chill, a lot more chill, honestly, compared to dekat UiTM, where everything is very structured, and kita memang kalau dalam tu kita join club debate, dan kita memang akan debate, But here, people go out and party and all those things. So then I realized okay, I think this is not the kind of life for me. Like, I just want to learn English. So I learned to a certain extent that, okay, I think I'm quite confident enough to do what I'm going to do. So then I went to another club. I became like one of the vice presidents. Then after that, I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm suited in this particular club. So then my friend Irfan invited me to join Startup Weekend, and that was in 2017 at Shell's office here in Miri. So my goal for that program was just to eat and have the nice swags lah. I just wanted the shirt, and that's it. I literally know nothing about startups. I know nothing about honestly all these cool stuff lah. I mean, I like gadgets, and that's it. Full stop. Tak adalah macam nak explore into machine learning, all those things lah. Although I'm taking computer lah kan. So I'm not the kind of student that would really like to explore unless it's something that I think is interesting lah kan. Entering Startup Weekend and basically finishing it after the 54 hours, it's as if I was baptized, I'm like, shoot, I'm someone new. I came out and I'm like, I'm no longer the Hamzah like 3 days ago. I'm the new Hamzah. So then I had this thought with my friend at the time, and they were like, okay, let's do something. Kita kat Miri ni, there's nothing for us to do, and let's build something. So we started building an app basically to track the buses. So we basically put like trackers in all the buses within Curtin, and students could actually download the app, and they could actually see where the buses are at, what time the buses are arriving, estimated time, how fast the bus are. They can report like if the buses are not going out, and we added other things lah. Like, it was a 1.5 years project that we did. We added like timetable lah. We added all the access to all our learning platforms.
You're doing it for free ke, Hamzah?
Yeah, back then it was for free lah. I like we literally don't know.
Madiha bila you cakap for free kau.
Yeah. It was.
Continue your story.
It was memang we don't know value, and that was what I mentioned before. We were just doing it because we felt like there's something missing. We have a lot of time, of course, and we're just tired of just being like normal student yang pergi kelas and balik kelas and just hang out. So we just have gone through that time lah. We just nak buat benda something kan. But then like moving along, then we realized like a lot of things coming in lah. The politics there, and people had expectation, and yet they don't want to pay us, those kind of things. And we're like, okay, I think we should consider, like maybe charging. And when we said charging tu, terus it became another roadblock lah for us, where people started to basically look at us as students yang kaki duit, padahal kita orang bayar university fees to the uni, and we're the client kan. But I mean, I wouldn't really blame them because in a sense, like the original reason why students go to universities are to study, but we were doing something else. But I would say that it was my first sneak peek into the real world was in my uni years. And I think I was quite blessed to be able to attend a private institution and a public institution at the same time, because it really shows me the differences and how, I should appreciate both. Like in public uni, I appreciated the fact that every program that I did, like, would always have sponsors. Kat UiTM dulu, like, run program macam mana pun mesti ada sponsor, and it was so easy for us to find sponsors. And when I moved to Ketin, basically joining clubs requires me to pay and all those things lah. So I was like, okay, let's do something. We started Founders Club in 2018, early 2018, and we ran it for about 2 years and then after that COVID happened kan. So we ran the first startup weekend. We invited Hanif as our facilitator at the time, and we basically turned the library into a huge, like, pitching ground, and we had the universities to come in, the staffs to come in, and it was just so that we can make, in a way, like, it's not really wanting to focus to have them to be an entrepreneur, but in a way to just to show them that, hey, like, as a bunch of students, you can do something bigger. You can always be somebody that you wanted to be even during your study years. Doesn't mean that you have to graduate first. During your study years, you can fail and you can still trace back, but when you're working, you can no longer afford to do that. Like, I think, like, right now, if let's say Madiha is running her own business, right, like, if she wants to introduce a new feature just for fun, and if it fails, it's really gonna affect what she's doing. But when we were studying, kalau kita buat like a project and it fails, like, we're like, okay, right, let's, like, people will just think like, oh, that's just a bunch of students kan, so give them some chance lah, macam tu kan. But when you're out there, it's so different lah kan. So like, we took that bet lah. We basically just, okay, tak apa, kita fail je. So we kept on going. We started our company in 2019, early 2019. I was in KL doing my internship, and we started the company then, and we started running hackathons and doing like a lot of programming classes in Sarawak. We got Facebook as one of our vendors. We got into the vendor development programs, and it was great. Like, it was an achievement. Like, as students, I go to class, I just stay quiet, and there I am outside, like, doing something, and people, like, my lecturers will just say like, Hamzah, like, I know you're doing all these things, but you need to focus on your studies, you need to graduate. I'm like, okay, I was contemplating and all those things. But honestly, like, my advice, like, if someone were to do this, honestly, you can do it pro bono, but try to always, like, find, like, something in return lah. For example, kalau you dapat network from this, or you get potential, like, clients and whatever, not, yes. But if you're not gonna get anything, I don't think it's really worth it, especially if you are burning out, especially kan. Kalau you burn out, which is such a bad thing, it really affects teamwork, as what mentioned by Madiha. It macam memang breakdown lah. It's like a train yang memang dah kepala dah kat mana, side track lagi satu kan. So you don't really move according to plan at all. And like, I would say that have a focus lah. Like, sometimes when you have too many hits, things tend to really move around. But honestly, going back to how I started, it was just startup weekend, that 54 hours. It changed my life. I graduated and still stayed in the startup scene, but more of a community building scene, because in a way, I am currently taking up my certification in data science, because I want to learn still, and I see where the future brings me forward lah. But for now, like, I still want to be here because I feel like it's a job that's due still in Sarawak, and I still want to contribute lah.
That's very interesting. Memang semangat nak membangun community. But Madiha, I want to understand, maybe an advice for Hamzah and all of the young people out there. How do you balance between profitability and impact? Ataupun sustainability and impact. So bahasa mudah dia macam mana nak charge tapi orang macam, oh, okay, akan bayar. Of course, yeah.
I think the first thing is actually PlusVibes mobile app is free. So, but the thing is, when you create a free product, first of all, you look to create value to the society, and that's the biggest impact you can make, and the most important one. So whatever business you do, you think, do people need it? Does it benefit the society? Okay, that aspect of it, for me, I wouldn't charge it because it's something that people need. For example, that support system, we don't charge. You can talk to the counselors, the therapists, or whoever for 24/7. We don't charge at all. But what we do charge is that we transform that into not a B2C, but into a B2B. So corporate companies, universities, right? They want the data analytics, anonymous, but it's about the data. So for example, the corporate companies want to know, how many people in this department are really suffering from stress or childcare or financial issues? The reason why that data is important is because then we can go to the next phase, which is to create a workshop to solve that problem. So actually the support thing, still free. People can get support for free, whoever you are, a student. Our youngest user is 13 years old, 13 tahun. Because dia orang kata, the data that we collect lah, dia orang kata, what? Kita orang macam pelik. Kenapa umur 13 tahun wants to use a mental health application? Because dia orang kata pressure daripada parents, family. Dia orang tak boleh nak handle dia orang punya studies and online working classes. They just can't cope. And they don't have that support system. So who do they reach out to? And that's the most important thing. So we want to keep this free. We want to still help people, but if you want to know how to solve it, the solutions for your company, for your organization, that is where we monetize it, right? So to create that solution. But at the same time, again, we still do free talks for universities, free awareness, free workshops, because in the end, in order for you to really grow, is to create a platform, a company that people want and need, right? So how do you do that if you're always charging for every single thing? You don't really create value, right? So for example, like Hamzah's one, honestly, this is the kind of youth that we want for Malaysia, because why? It's about being innovative. It's creating new ideas. For me, education is important. I mean, I did it sampai PhD, tapi it wasn't really about what I learned. It was about how. So for example, you're training your mind, how to be a good team member or leader in your group assignment. It's about how you learn, really, not really what you learn, because in the end, I learned journalism and I'm far from that. See, so I did business, I did entrepreneurship, I did a food truck, I did a cafe, far from that. I didn't even take culinary, you know? So it's not about really what you learn. It's about how you learn, the networking that you build while you're learning. It's about understanding what are your strengths and weaknesses. And that is why education is important. That's what I believe. But in terms of monetizing, create part of your company that is free, that contributes to the society, and then create a solution that is monetizable for B2B or B2C or whichever. You can have additional freemium features kind of thing. But the main thing that helps people, that keeps people engaged in your company, is to keep the thing that they need the most free. And that's what I think.
Well, that is very interesting. So, and I love that you mentioned about, we need more young people like that. I mean, like Hamzah in Malaysia, because, innovative and whatnot. And I love that you mentioned that, you are really big on education, not just studying, but the education system itself. You've contributed to universities and whatnot. So, this is the last question to Hamzah, and after this, the last question to Madiha. Just touching on the education system, because Hamzah, I believe that you've done programs for university students, you've interacted with them, and also for non-university students. What do you think that is lacking? In terms of policy ke infrastructure in Malaysia, and what do you think that we should implement for post-pandemic? Because I think right now kita dah tak payah focus on pandemic. Kita kena focus on post-pandemic. We need to as you said lah, 2 days ago there's a speaker cakap sekarang ni the time right now is certain. What certain right now is uncertain. So Hamzah, do you have any thoughts on that, especially working for the government? So yeah.
Wow, very controversial question.
Sangat.
Like if I were in a different shoe, then it would be a different answer. But yeah, just kidding. But anyways, I think what the ministries need to realize is there are a lot of connectivity issues, especially in Sarawak here. I mean, kita provide diorang SIM card pun kalau elektrik tak ada, no point juga kan. Like they can't charge their laptops and all these things. And if you provide them electricity, tak ada SIM card pun another issue kan. Like no internet and all those things. So post pandemic, I don't know if it's gonna be an endemic ke apa after that, and you know people still need to go to take shots and all those things kan. But honestly, I agree with what the person has said like during the day too. It's very uncertain. In terms of education alone, like I'm no expert, but the only thing I could say is if there's something that we can do to basically cushion the impact post pandemic, it would be in terms of, you know, like I believe like nowadays because of the whole COVID ni, a lot of movements are there, you know, people, organizations, and even community groups that's actually doing things. I think these are the people that could actually help to cushion the impact and to actually help people post pandemic. You know, like maybe you know, you have all these apa macam books and whatever laying around and could create like something like community driven punya you know, knowledge bank or book bank that could help, you know, give out you know, facilities to these kids, resources lah, because my fear is not really in the urban kids. Like I mean they are of course like apa things yang memang affected them, but honestly this pandemic really affected those who are outside of the urban society ni, and these are the students who memang tak ada access langsung lah. Here in Miri, like the thing about TEGAS is we have hubs in Miri, Bintulu, Kuching. We have students coming in from Longnan, which is like about 6 hours boat ride, and then another few more hours naik kereta to Miri. And she would come in and I would ask her like, oh dah ada pergi sekolah tak apa semua, and then she would say like no, because I don't have internet. And the thing is, even after the whole pandemic is over, like there still need to be recovery, kan, dia akan ada recovery, and how long that the recovery will take to pun another question that we are not certain of. So if it takes like a very short time, then good, but if it's not, then I think people like this would still are affected lah. So I think they should also look into Indonesia. I can't really give a proper answer, and I mean if I wish things were better, then of course giving them like a proper, you know, like connectivity, having internet and having electricity, at least like with fuel supply apa semua ni kepada diorang, so that they can access, you know, all these educational resources while the country is recuperating, then fine, you know, that would be my nila, because I don't think we should look like 3-4 years ahead. We should look at like right after post-pandemic too, like right after the pandemic is over, that few months too would really be a very crucial moment to actually see how the education industry really holds on lah. I hope the not answer it would answer the question.
But thank you for sharing us the context, because I'm actually quite surprised to know that, I mean, macam kita dah boleh dengar daripada orang lain kata ada orang kat Sarawak yang kena naik boat, but coming from you, it feels more real lah, and I believe that what they are going through right now, it's very very hard, it's very challenging time, especially kalau dekat tempat yang tak ada connectivity. So my question to Madiha, because you are in a very different situation, in terms of educating people about this new industry, what do you think that the government should do? Maybe on policy side, or maybe on you know, especially right now people are orang kata terperap kat rumah, and we will see this happening way in the future, because companies are right now remote working is a thing, it's something normal. So what's your thought on this?
I think in terms of post-pandemic, the main issue is actually youth unemployment. We've had 2 years of lockdown where students were not able to get internships because nobody was hiring. They weren't even allowed to get jobs because, again, nobody was hiring. You have to work from home. So there are an increasingly number of people between that degree and diploma age that are unemployed. I think I want to share with you some statistics. At 2014, 9.9% of the youth were unemployed. And then pre-COVID, it was 11.7%. Now, March 2021, 13.5%. So actually, it has been increasing youth unemployment. And it's not just because of COVID. COVID just spiked it up. But this is a long-term issue. So why are youth, the rate increasingly, the rate of unemployment is increasing? So the main issue isn't really about, it may be because of lack of opportunities, but it's actually more to do with skills. Graduates are graduating without the necessary skills that the industry needs. We're in the Industrial Revolution 4.0. So we need IT, we need to be agile, we need to be all these kind of things, of which maybe, perhaps, we're not being taught these skills in the university. The reason why I'm so passionate about this topic is because this is exactly my PhD topic. It's about reskilling the graduates that are ready for the IR 4.0. It's about why are there so many youth that are unemployed. So I think the most important thing that we can do is creating workshops, training programs out of the education system, out of your traditional module, to learn about other things. So other things that are very important in the industry, whether it's about designing, whether it's about technology, softwares, different things where you can get certificates to say, okay, although my degree is in marketing or journalism or something very specific like food or something like that, or medicine, but you do have other skills that can help you in the industry. I think that's very important. So what universities should do post-pandemic is to partner with academies, organizations that are creating specific skills and trainings and workshops to expand the graduates' knowledge. So even though you're learning in this industry, you also have other skills. And I think that's very, very important because you have to be an all-rounder now in this day and age. You can't just be focused on that one specific skill.
Thank you, Madiha, for your insights. So we're gonna end the session now, but just to end the session, Hamzah, any final words to our young viewers who's watching, and what do you hope to see in Malaysia in 10 years?
Well, since the topic is Merdeka, what do you say, right? So, I think Merdeka is not just the fact that, you know, like we've had independence, but it's also this a state of mind, lah, in the sense that, you know, if you think that you live in a very apa nama ni, like constricted ni, then you are stuck in that loophole lah. But not to say that it's wrong for you to feel that way. You know, people to a certain extent will go through that, and some people are actually going through that in a loop, man. But in a sense, there's a lot of people out there that I see macam, you know, my friends who are working in Singapore who doesn't want to come back and just say like, oh, you know, like nasty stuff about Malaysia and all those things. But, you know, how can Malaysia really change if you are not planning to come back? You know, you're just complaining outside, you're looking at it from an observer's point of view. And, you know, people within Malaysia, the rakyats, you know, people like Madiha who comes back and wants to contribute back to the country again, who are actually doing something, kita pun terkena tempias dia sekali. Dia sapu semua orang ni, Malaysia ni semua lah macam tu kan. And I don't think that's fair to say. And there's a lot of like Malaysians who, you know, like who are surgeons that I've known who were in Ireland, came back just because they wanted to help in the vaccination apa semua ni kan. And, you know, like people who feels like, okay, I'm Merdeka bila aku keluar daripada Malaysia, I think that's a really wrong perspective. You know, like you have to, in a way, look at it from, you know, like when your family members who came to Malaysia or who was born in Malaysia, and I believe like most of us are born and raised in Malaysia nowadays, are, you know, how they started again. And we have the privilege to actually go out. And now you have the privilege to actually say bad things about Malaysia without considering the fact about, you know, what the communities are actually doing. So I'd say like what happens with the government ke apa ke, all those things, like put that aside. And, you know, like as a community builder, our goal has always been about helping the community. And sometimes it's with or without value, again, as long as it helps the community. So as a youth, I think if you can explore into trying to do things to help your community, it can just be like, you know, like nowadays there's so much initiatives can help out your neighbors, help out the people who lives in your village or who's, you know, your neighbor dekat bawah, dekat condominium, to maybe like they can't go down and grab food or order food for them randomly, of course knowing their dietary punya restrictions apa semua ni kan, just to have that, to, in a way, like, hey, I'm here, I exist, I want to help, you can always share things with me. Because with the whole pandemic happening ni, kita tak keluar rumah, we're just stuck at home, and in a way kita tak merdeka lagi, and I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon from COVID lah kan. But at least like merdeka in the sense that you are free to actually help people, you are free to actually support what's happening, like assist people, and you are also free to, in a way, like help the community lah overall. So yeah, that's my take on your question and today's topic as well.
Thank you, Hamzah. How about you, Madiha?
I think I'm very big on youth empowerment, women empowerment, these kind of things. But the thing that people lack, I feel, is that confidence. They always feel like they're not ready enough. I'm not sure, I don't have enough skills. So people tend to doubt themselves. And I really, really, really wish that people would just have enough confidence to try different things, to understand that they have a purpose, they have unique skill sets, they can contribute in any way, whether big or small. And it's not that much you feel like, oh, I don't want to go or venture into this new idea or take risks because I don't have the knowledge. Thing is, I think Elon Musk is famously quoted for saying that you don't need to have a degree to pursue something. Why? Because you can be self-learners. You can learn anything on YouTube and Google. It's a matter of if you want to or not. So have the confidence, take risks, you're young. There are a lot of different opportunities, innovative ideas that you can come up with, but it's not about simply taking the risk. It's about planning, having the right plan. Again, how to build a business. This planning, you can learn from YouTube. You can learn from Google. There are so many resources online that are available. It's a matter of if you want to or if you don't want to. So I think the last thing that I want to say is just have confidence to believe that you can do anything, literally.
Thank you, both of you guys, are amazing guests. I believe that those are watching really inspired. For those who's watching, please remember to download PlusVibes and give it a try. Right now, especially at this pandemic, sometimes you don't know what you need until you have used it, right? So another thing is, if you're from Sabah and Sarawak, TEGAS is doing a lot of programs on entrepreneurship, and they are big on helping entrepreneurs building technology-based business. And I hope this session, this forum, can spark a conversation between you guys to bring PlusVibes to Sarawak, because tak dikata kan Sarawak, I mean in your case sekarang ni tak ada roadblock dah, semua ada miri ada, kucing ada kan. So I hope to see collaborations in the future. So thank you for being together with us, and hope to see you guys again on other sessions lah, insyaAllah. Bye. Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Salam.